So, good evening, everyone. I am so happy that you guys have joined us, and I'm looking forward to this conversation that we're going to have this evening. I wanted to just share a couple of things with you in terms of housekeeping. Um, we would like you to keep your phone on mute, and after the a few slides, then we will open it up for an actual conversation around bone health and answer any questions that folks may have based on what we've shared so far. I'm excited about this particular event for bone health. It's a family affair simply because this has been um, in the makings for quite a while. And why is it important in terms of our family? And what I have had the privilege to do at this point um, is to be able to serve as a peer educator with the American Bone Health. Unfortunately, they have closed their doors, but I learned a lot as a peer educator working out in the field. And this particular presentation today is sponsored by the Black Physicians Healthcare Network. We were privileged to be selected as one of the grantees. So, with that, let's start the show. Crystal, did you have any things that you wanted to share with folks before we get started?
No, just I already let everyone know that we are being recorded, and if you're not talking, just to keep yourself on mute.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's just start with the disclaimer that Bones and Balance is an educational program and is not intended to replace professional medical services. So we're asking, if you have any direct questions as it relates to a particular issue that we can share from an educational standpoint, but any questions that you may have, you need to consult with your medical provider. Oh, that's me. As you can see, I took this picture in the office last week. I just attended an event with the Habitat group, and I just really wanted to give an update in terms of who I am, because some people know me, but they may not know all of the different roles that I play. I am the founder of Bones and Balance and have been talking about bone health for more than a decade. I was just thinking about it on November the 9th, I believe, the 9th, when my mother made her transition. And that's how I really started this journey, asking questions about bone health because I did donate some of her bones um, to the University of North Carolina, Duke University, actually. But 8 years ago, I got involved with the African American Health Program as a volunteer, and that was in 2015. And at that particular time, I came to the program, to the African American Health Program, to share with them what I had learned about bone health and the gaps that exist in our community as it relates to bone health. So that's how I really started this journey more than, as I said, more than a decade ago. But with the African American Health Program, I've been with them since 2015. And in this last year, I came on as a contractor, and I have been very privileged to work out in the field with so many different people. And I am very thankful that I had an opportunity to create several toolkits. One is the Alzheimer's awareness and the self care for all toolkits. So, as the aging ambassador, and how I laugh about this quite often is in terms of the role that I'm in. I am finding out more and more about how to age and age gracefully, because we know that physically we're not here for forever, but in terms of the journey, being able to understand how to take care of ourselves. This has been quite a journey for me to be in the community helping others, because as I'm helping and giving to others, I am learning myself as well and having fun in the process. So let's start with some bone health trivia. These are three questions, and I guess maybe you can put it in the chat. Like in reading each one of them, bone health starts from birth to end of life. And the second one is bones provide, protect, and support other body systems. And then the last one, without the bones, we wouldn't be able to express as human beings. Did we get any responses in the chat in terms of true? All true. That's right. That is so true. They're all true. So why are we here today? Why bone health matters for the whole family? I thought it was very important to start with the fact that as human beings, we're really spiritual beings having a human experience. And without our bones, we would not be able to express as human beings. And then the common denominator as it relates to bone health is that we all have bones, including some of the animals in the animal kingdom, not all animals, but some of the animals do have bones just like we do. And the bones actually serve, as mentioned earlier, bone support, provide, and protects. It actually stores the minerals. The mineral one that we talk about the most is calcium, but it stores minerals, which is needed to support our overall well-being. And then the next one in terms of the bone bank is understanding is that every single day we're making deposits or withdrawals, which is key to optimum health. So I would be talking about this a little bit more. But if you have a question about the bone bank, I certainly will be sharing a little bit more about that as we progress into the slides. And then bone health actually begins in childhood and defines the quality of life in adulthood. And that's one of the reasons why I think that it's very important for us to be having this discussion now, that bone health, it is a family affair, because what we do as we are in our earlier age and as we progress into adulthood really can define what that journey looks like. And the most important thing is understanding is that our bones are living tissues. And so every single day we have an opportunity to be able to create some good cells. And of course, the body takes care of eliminating cells that are no longer functioning, which is a particular process that we will talk about, maybe not this particular time around remodeling, but that is a term that I can share for further information to you as we progress into the slides. So bone health actually starts from birth to end of life, which I've already, stated that earlier in the statement, that the process actually begins in infancy and it continues from that point until we leave this earth. We are always having the opportunity to be able to create new bone cells. So healthy bones are built early in life, especially during the childhood and during the adolescent period, because that is during the time where things are being built or developing based on the different age stages. And then after a certain point in our lives, we get to a point where we actually call it peak bone mass. And with that, it's the greatest amount of bone mass that we create. And then it plateaus off. And then from an adult forward, we are always working toward maintaining the optimum health and good bone health. So it's essential to be able to maintain your bone health so that as we age and start to lose bone, sometimes we are actually at a certain point in our life, we start losing more, or we have more bone cells that are not being developed, and we need to be able to make sure that we have the adequate amount of activity, our diet, etc., that supports the overall wellness of our bones. So this presentation really breaks down what the various stages are in terms of your age stages. So building strong bones in childhood, we're focusing on younger members of our family. So say ages 9 to 14 is a very crucial period for bone health. And it's also a point in time where we want to make sure that our kids are getting the adequate amount of calcium and that they are actually staying active. And so as a family, there are different activities that we can work together to always optimize the amount of what they call osteoblasts, which is building new bone cells every single day. So different activities that we can perform throughout the day helps with maintaining and building strong bones. So achieving the peak bone mass. So what is the peak bone mass? That's a period where we actually plateau. It's the greatest period between the ages of nine to around 25 to 30, where we build as much as we need to maintain. And then from that point on, we are actually maintaining our bone health instead of building toward being the peak bone mass, because it really peak bone mass is when we plateau. It's the largest amount of bone cells that we create as a human being. So that's what peak bone mass actually means. But during that particular period, no matter what age we're at, it's the same goal. It's having an active a lifestyle, eating the proper foods, getting the adequate amount of sleep, and reducing the amount of stress that that we have to deal with. And one important thing around being able to maintain um, the adequate amount of activity, it really gets into how many things that we do throughout the day that where we're actually making deposits. Deposits meaning, whether we are actively moving, whether we're eating the right foods, staying hydrated, etc. So the different age stages that I'm actually showing here is relevant to what happens as we age. So for women at the age of 50 plus, we experience rapid bone loss due to menopause. And this is a period where it's very important to be able to take care of ourselves, getting the regular checkups and making sure that we know what our bone health is, how healthy our bones are, and then introducing into our daily activities exercises that are weight bearing and having that as a part of our family fitness routines. Because from the very beginning, when we are creating and developing bone mass, it's the same formula. It's the same things that we would do in our lifestyle. So as a parent, we're introducing these activities to our family in regard to the amount of movement throughout the day, weight bearing, using weights. And within Bones and Balance, one of the things that we actually have been able to create for our program is showing people how to mechanically use their own internal alignment, to create the amount of stress. Because one of what happens with bones is, in order for them to be activated, you really have to create stress. So there's good stress and then there's bad stress. So this final slide here is at 65. So we went through from age starting with age 9 to peak bone mass to 50 plus in terms of women in menopause, and now looking at bone health as it relates to seniors, keeping our older members active, making sure that as we age, we don't slow down our activities. And uh, we can make adjustments in our activities, but we certainly don't want to slow down our activities. We want to be able to have family activities like stretching, doing gardening, walking, any form of activity where your feet is hitting the ground, you're actually creating new bone cells. You have an opportunity to make many different deposits just by being active. So we do want to encourage seniors to stay active in order to support their bone health. And it's not only seniors. I shouldn't have said that in terms of just encouraging seniors. This particular slide is suggesting that, at age 65, the things that we want to do, but just generally as a family, we want to be able to remain active. I found that God really has a sense of humor, because for years I had been focused on bone health, and most recently in this new role that I have with the African American Health Program, the Aging Subcommittee, what I have found is that there is a connection, that there is a definite connection between bones and brain health. So what's good for the bones is also good for the brains. Mind management is a new term that I have been using most recently, because earlier I was speaking when I created the toolkits for Alzheimer's for the caregivers. We refer to time management. But time management and mind management are two different things. But in overall, what we're listing here are what's good for the bones is also good for the brain. So you're being able to manage what we allow to come into our space, into our mind, being able to manage nutrition. Nutrition does matter. Staying active. Hydration is key, because dehydration, if we're not, we don't have the adequate amount of hydration, we can actually throw the system out of balance by not by being dehydrated. And sleep is so important. One of the things that I know about getting anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep is during the period where we're sleeping, the body is also healing. And then, of course, managing stress. We know chronic stress is one of the reasons why the body sometimes is challenged and it's out of balance. And then the social connections, what we're actually doing today, I would say that we are connecting with each other so that we can learn and share what works for us in terms of our overall well-being. And this next slide is the practical tips for families, how families can promote strong bones together. And that is sharing calcium-rich foods, meals. When we talk, sometimes when people refer to calcium, they may refer to dairy products. And the Black family, the African American family, we can have situations where we're lactose intolerant. So when we Bones and Balance make reference to calcium-rich meals, we're talking about plant-based meals instead of for getting it from the cow. We're actually doing what the cow actually consumes, which is grass. So the greener, the darker the vegetables we consume, the higher the amount of calcium. And so there's a standard that has been created in regard to how much calcium we should get each day. And we also know that we need vitamin D, and vitamin D actually helps to absorb the calcium. So that combination of being able to get the adequate amount of vitamin D, which usually you would have to possibly have a take a supplement, whereas you can actually take not it's not encouraged to take calcium um, as a supplement. Really, it's more encouraged. We encourage you to consume the amount of calcium through your diet versus through a supplement. I have some documentation from the American Bone Health that really describes that sometimes for blacks, calcium, we as blacks don't need as much calcium as is prescribed. But again, this is educational platform, so you want to check with your physician to find out exactly how much calcium you should be getting in your diet a day. And then the best activity, one of the activities for your family, promoting movement like dancing and walking, it is the most important thing uh, is to keep moving throughout the day. I share this story often about my own experience many years ago when I used to practice hot yoga. I would go every single day, 30 days on the road. I would just go continuously. Then I would go to my office and sit for 9 to 10 hours working. And I know just based on the work that I've done over this last decade with bone health, is sitting actually does something what they call unload the bones. And unloading the bones really, it means that we are having an experience where there are more withdrawals than we are making deposits. So sitting is one of those activities that is not the best thing for maintaining um, adequate bone health. We encourage you to set goals to track your progress in terms of bone health. And one project that we here at with Bones and Balance is working on is called the Bone Bank Project. The term ATM, the ATM bank, that is a term that's used in the field that really describes the number of deposits and the number of withdrawals. So we have within Bones and Balance is creating a whole activity around being able to monitor the number of um, deposits and withdrawals that are being, well, primarily deposits, because we don't have any control over the withdrawals because the body automatically goes through this process of what they call bone remodeling. And the bone remodeling, again, that is something that happens within the body and is happening every single day in terms of the how God has created such an awesome temple where all the different systems are working together. And so that process of understanding what it takes to be able to maintain um, optimum health is by taking care of your bones, because again, what's good for the bones is also good for the brains. I mentioned this earlier, reducing sitting. We did a virtual presentation earlier this year to share with folks about the benefits of movement and what actually happens when we sit too long. And I would say we have been sitting for almost 30 minutes. So I'm just going to ask everybody to just stand up for 1 second. Just stand up, and then you can sit back down. I'm not able to see you all because I'm looking at the actual slide. But the reason there was a study that was done by NASA to determine what actually happens to astronauts when they go up into space. And what the conclusion was that it's all about gravity. So the movements, the different activities that we do on a daily basis, that we're moving our feet, whether we're exercising or stomping your feet or you're dancing, playing basketball, volleyball, football. What's the new thing that they do now is paddleball. I don't know if that's the exact name or not, but again, any activity where you're moving your feet, you're actually making deposits. You're creating an environment where the bones are being stressed, and when you stress the bones, you actually good stress when you have good stress, when you're stressing the bones, it actually helps with improving your stamina as well as the strength of your bones. And then lastly, in terms of the actual tips, this is one that the reason I put this here is my background in technology and be able to assess the life changes, including technology, that impact that have an impact to your bone health. And what I mean by that is as we progress with technology and changes in our lives, um, I can use the example with the people now that are on the scooters, instead of walking, they're actually riding on these scooters. Over time, what I have actually seen as a peer educator and as a wellness advocate is that some of the disorders that are typically defined or said that most people may think is related to aging, younger people are having some of the same issues where the older folks would say, well, they have an old body, where they're experiencing some form of imbalance in their systems. And one of the things that I did not include here is the impact of chronic diseases, because the medications, oftentimes some of the medications that are given to address chronic diseases actually impact the bone health, the health of your bones in that remodeling process that I mentioned earlier. So I've said quite a bit. I do want to open the line up so people can share. Before I go on to the next slide, I've asked two of my favorite people that I worked with this summer with the Bone series. So one thing before I have them to share what their experience is as it relates to bone health and how it is a family affair, or the experience that they had with bones in balance, is to um, just give you a little insight as to why or how the Bone series came about. As I mentioned earlier, I have been talking about bone health since 2008 is when my mother made her transition. And, I had the opportunity to get to support someone else by donating some of my mother's bones. And I knew about making donations, organ donations, but I never thought about it, from a bone perspective. And that just set me off on this journey. And it took a minute because I was grieving and I was going through a number of other things, but along the way in asking these questions about bone health, I've come to really appreciate my body more. I've come to appreciate life more. Um, I come to appreciate movement because as I've aged, two things that I think is very relevant, for many of us is we are concerned about mobility and we're concerned about our minds, which really translates to the bones and the brains. And when I started this journey, what I recognized was that there were lots of gaps in our community. I've spoken to a lot of people, and many times people say that they've never really even thought about bone health. And now I've had the opportunity to not only speak about bone health, but now I'm speaking about brain health because we know that, that the bones provide protection for our brain. But without the bones, we would not be able to express as human beings. We would not be able to move um, um, uh, in in respect to mobility. We would not be able to have the protection of our organs, etc. So the bones is very important. But one of my mentors did say to me is that the heart was first and then the bones. Now, for me, it's a call to action because of the issues, the mobility issues that I witness, as well as the mind issues that we are currently experiencing in our community. Some of you've heard me already speak about the uh, the 2030 roadmap, which basically says by 2030, 40% of the population who will have some form of memory loss or Alzheimer's are African Americans and Hispanics. And one of my mentors challenged me to say, well, how does that equate to African Americans? And it's 6.9 million people. Right now, we have about 2 million, estimate around 2 million people that have some form of memory loss or Alzheimer's. But by 2030, the projection is, far greater than any that I had anticipated or any of us really anticipated. So this program tonight, in terms of having a discussion and opening this up to a conversation on what do we do, and as a peer educator, and God put me on this journey, this calling to be able to share bone health with you. I believe that bone health is one of the major um, goals. It's being able to, if in terms of being able to take care of our bones, will help us be able to um, manage um, optimum health, whatever that is for you. So what I'm sharing here on this slide is the actual program that has been created within Bones and Balance. Because over the years, what I believe is not just a matter of coming together and having one discussion, it is an actual movement where people need to understand what the importance of bones and balance awareness is. And also included this would be brain health, the ability to prevent osteoporosis, the nutritional guidance that is needed in order for us to make the informed decisions that we need to make, the choices of making informed decisions about what's best for us in terms of our health and wellness, and then educating and empowering people with information that really supports the body awareness, and also really connecting and improving our energy, because that is very, very important. Being able to really feel alive, having the experience of living. And lastly, but not least, strength and stamina, being able to participate in the program where are able to identify long-term goals, um, supporting being able to make the appropriate adjustment and changes. And we know the change is one of the constant things in our lives, that things are always happening and changing. So being able to be informed with the information that's going to help us to improve our mobility, to improve our mind, to increase our strength and stamina as we continue on this path of aging. So, with that, I'm going to open it up. I'm 6 minutes over, so I kind of apologize, but I want to introduce you guys to Philomena Queen and Robert Carey. I asked them to share with you briefly what their experience has been um, as it relates to this whole theme of bone health. Is a family affair, because they have participated with me um, incorporating the Bones series into their life. So Philomena and Robert, I don't know if are you guys on mute?
No, I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you clear. Thank you. I can't see you though, so I have to go back so I can see you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know who, we didn't rehearse this, so I'm not sure what's going to come out.
Robert, move
Oh.
closer to the camera. You're faded in the background.
That's intentional so that I didn't dress for this performance.
Oh, okay, never mind.
No, we'll move a little bit closer.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
But yeah, this has been a real learning experience for me because prior to going through this program about bone and balance, I really knew very little about bone health. Was not one of the things that I would wake up thinking about. But knowing that, or I should say, seeing how people physically changed as they age, people who walked very were straight, standing tall, suddenly became hunched over, bent over, and figured, okay, that's just a part of aging. But it really, I don't think it is. I think it is how we treat ourselves. But when I was informed to learn about the bone health, and it was suggested that I get a a bone density test.
Yes, the
And
DEXA.
DEXA, yeah. And I requested that from my doctor, and she said that that was an odd request because she usually didn't associate the DEXA with men. It wasn't something that they recommended or even did unless there was a specific reason for it. And but she did write the order. I did get the test, and when I went to get it, I was the only guy in the waiting room. And when I did get into the technician, he pretty much repeated what the doctor said. You don't get a lot of guys, coming in for the test. So I did get the test done. It was interesting that when I got it back and went over the results with the doctor, that there were some things that was pointed out, and a lot of those things were mentioned earlier in health and how to, if you are experiencing bone loss, how to slow it down or and feed your body. And the other thing, there are several things running through my head right now, but I'm trying to think of which ones to talk about, is that the recommended retesting was like 2-3 years. And I said, that's a long time. So I was told that building bones is a slow, building bone mass is a slow process. So that normally, the retest is done a couple, 3 years out. Well, I have a chiropractor that I go to for treatment, and in talking about it with him, he was talking like every 6 or 9 months, just to see if you're moving in the right direction. And there is a medication that can be taken for bone health. I can't think of the name of it right now, but that was recommended. But there are lots of other things that I've learned that can that contribute to developing stronger bones. And I'll stop there. I have a couple of questions, but I'll stop there until later.
Yeah, and as far as making it a family affair, it was interesting that we did it together, and which gave a lot of support with continuing the exercises and the demonstration. And each session we could notice a better balance, better change, just like Robert will walk more now without his cane. So yeah, it was very supportive to do it together. Complete.
Okay, very good.
But I do have a question.
Mhm.
They said that with bone loss increases in women as they're going through menopause, and is that something that's discussed with women when they're going through menopause? Anything about bone health?
May I say something?
Dr. Chili?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Good evening. Sorry I'm a little late. I was having a family affair with my grandkids and my daughter as they were running around. So anyway, yes, hi, Robert and everybody else that I haven't had an opportunity to speak to. It's not talked about so much. Maybe within the white community, it might be a thing, so to speak, but there was no mention, ever any mention of bone loss to me at the age of 50 or whenever I went through menopause. There was just not a mention. And as a matter of fact, the myth was that we as Black women don't get osteoporosis, and let me just cut my phone off. Sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, so that we don't get osteoporosis. And, and so, yeah, you want to believe something like that for Black women. but it's not so, because I know has mentioned it, the medications, if you're high blood pressure, diabetes, different kinds of chronic conditions where we're taking medications, it adds to the rapid loss of bone within our community. And I guess, for me, as I think about it, building bone and taking care of the bones is something that kind of happens in the background. And I love that Amma is bringing it to the foreground now. There are things that we do, we probably have done most of our lives, where we're boned. You do yoga and running and swimming and biking and hiking and those kinds of things, but you don't think about it in terms, at least I didn't think about it in terms of bones. I thought about it in terms of staying toned and having more energy and those kinds of things. But, at a certain age, the consciousness changes from, oh, I just want to be healthy, to I want healthy bones too. And I had surgery this time a year ago, and I have been sitting on my behind for about a year now. Not really not doing much of anything in terms of pursuing walking because of some things, just the healing process. And it has taken a toll. A real toll. And I am on a mission, so to speak, to build myself back up again, because I've always participated in yoga and different kinds of dancing, especially dancing. I even stopped dancing for the last year or so. So yeah, as far as bone loss is concerned, it's about, with men, it's about the same as women after, about 50, both men and women, age-related bone loss begins around 50 for both of us, for all of us, except if we are taking some medication that might speed up the process. So that's something that I think that we have to really pay attention to, because I think that's what happens within our community. Actually, the decrease in bone mass occurs at a slower rate in men than in women until the age of 65 to 70. And that at that point, it's about the same. And and please forgive me if I'm repeating something that Alma already told you. But the rates remain the same. But we continue to lose bone. We continue to do it if we don't do something, if we don't move, if we don't get up, if we don't, stretch and do weight bearing kinds of exercise, in addition to the nutritional guidance, because we actually get calcium out of a lot of foods that we don't think about having calcium content. You always hear about milk, but all milk, like Amma said, a lot of us are lactose intolerant. But this is real. This is for real. There's probably been more knee replacements and hip replacements and those kinds of things within the last 10 years than there's been for decades before. And it's because we don't move. And one other thing I want to say, in terms of when my grandkids are here, 2 years old and 5, Leilani's doing cartwheels all over the place, and so it's like, come on, Nan. I was like, oh no, I'll watch you. So it can be a family affair, even if you don't do the same things. Taking them to the playground and walking around the playground, they're on, they're playing and they're doing their thing. You don't have to do the same things, but allowing and encouraging them to continue to be kids, because kids aren't kids anymore. They don't come out anymore. They play with their phones. They play with the iPad. They look at TV, those kinds of things. And then, like you said, you see people on scooters. I was so disappointed when my daughter got not a scooter, but a motorized bike for the 2-year-old. It's like, no, he needs to build that muscle. He doesn't, it doesn't make sense. It's the latest thing. So people don't think about what that means for us later. We think about later because we are at later, but it's just such a different kind of world now, and we really do have to pay attention to our bone health. And I just really want to take my hat off and honor Alma for being such an advocate over the last many years that I've known her, and I appreciate it too. Did I answer your question, Robert?
Yes. I think you did.
We were trying,
it was
trying to get
go ahead, Robert. I'm sorry.
It is a answer, but I didn't find that the fact that it's not discussed with women by the doctors, I didn't find that unusual, because I've had several experiences talking with doctors, mostly white doctors. So where I was in the corporate arena, managers had to get physicals annually, and the company paid for a full physical from your toenails to your hair. And I got a lot from the doctors, because since I was at one time, the only Black guy that the doctors were seeing, the corporate doctors were seeing, they were learning too. Like when they told me that I had hypertension, they didn't call it that. They said high blood pressure. And the one doctor told me, he said, well, that's a disease of colored people. So, yeah, I guess I gave myself away, because he did say colored, and we were colored then. So, but other things like that. So, maybe the medical community needs to be educated a little bit better than they're being educated, as far as some of the differences, racial differences. Even though we're all one, there are differences.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue too, Robert, in terms of the Bone series, which is one of the reasons for creating it segmented this way instead of just trying to get everything in an hour presentation or a few um, discussions. I think just in general in terms of having a conversation in our community is very, very important. Simply because since I've been doing this work, I've met young women, not men, but I've met young women who were in their late 30s who had been diagnosed with osteoporosis. Um, Another example is I met a woman who had screws in her foot because she had broken her foot, and y- they took care of the break, but they didn't do the DEXA. And so I asked her, did they do the DEXA? And she said no. So I said, well, you need to request it. And so she did and came back -5, which means it's at the highest level in terms of osteoporosis. So in that example, what probably happened with her was that she actually broke the bones in her foot, and that's what made her fall. But oftentimes people think that they fall and they break bones. But osteoporosis is silent. And this past Monday, I had a presentation with a group talking about self-care for all in the brain, the brain health. And it occurred to me that that's a similar characteristics with dementia and Alzheimer's. That is some things that are actually happening within us, and we don't even know that it's happening. Like osteoporosis, you don't know that you have it unless you fracture something, and even if you fracture, depending on who it is, they still may not check your bone health. And it's the same thing with our brain health. We may be experiencing certain things, but we don't connect it. They say, oh, it's senile or it's aging. And so what I've learned being in this field and, as an advocate is that aging gets blamed for everything. It's like, oh, because you old. That's the reason why you feel this way. But that is not always the case. And for those who know me, they know that I can dance for hours. And I'm old, but I can dance.
Do you mind if I wanted to ask Philomena and Robert what their experience, what they got out of this during the series, what difference it made for them, just as a testimony.
For me, the issue that I've been working with for a couple of years is around balance. I broke my ankle several years ago. That led to a pinched nerve that led to reduced blood circulation in my right leg, and it was throwing. And I wore a boot. And when I broke my ankle, the doctor had me wearing a boot for a while, and that threw me off balance walking. So we figured that's what caused the pinched nerve. So I've had an issue with with balance, and several of the exercises that we were subjected to with Alma was, exercises that really did help with the balance. And in the process, I've learned other things that that I've been able to focus on that helps with the balance, like your vision affects your balance. Your hearing affects your balance. There were a couple other things that, the balance in the ears that I knew a little bit about, but I learned more about that. The vision was a big one. And I know at one point when I was in therapy, I found that if I closed my eyes, I could stand on one leg longer. I could do things longer. Well, if I opened my eyes, I got real wobbly because I was, not focused on any one thing, but looking all over the place, and it was throwing me off. So, yeah, and then toe exercises, heel exercises, and getting up from a chair, we take that for granted. I had to relearn how to do that, how to use my legs and balance myself to get from a sitting to a standing position. So for me, it was quite a bit, and I'm grateful for that.
And it wasn't just those 5 sessions or whatever it was, but it was like a change in lifestyle, Tilly. It was like when I walk now, I'll get in the line with the sidewalk and I'll walk heel to toe, you know, so it was a lifestyle. It was beneficial, so I incorporated it and do more of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you. That's quite a testimony, you two. And somebody has a question for me.
There's a question, yeah, for Dr.
Yeah, what is it? Who has a question?
Hi there. Hi, my name is Celeste. And sorry, I'll turn on my camera so I'm not totally invisible. Hi. I heard Robert mention that when he told a doctor that maybe another doctor had suggested every 2 years, or for him to come back for bone density test in 2 years, that doctor thought that was too long a period and suggested 6 to 9 months. I think that's what I heard. And I'm wondering from a medical perspective, whether you would think that would be too frequent because of radiation exposure. To me, I would be concerned about that, having an X-ray that frequently. And whether it would be worth that risk, maybe is another part of my question, because if you're doing the right things or doing the things that are recommended after you've taken the first one, would that not be sufficient?
That's a good question, Celeste. I think that 2 years is long. I think 6 months is short. You know, it's too short of a time. Because things, unless there is something happening in your life, your lifestyle, whether it's medications or some trend in a particular direction, you would not need to do it every 6 months. I can see a chiropractor erring on the side of, well, let me just make sure that these bones are healthy, because they're, you know, kind of racking and cracking and turning. And so, you know, I don't know what Robert's actual diagnosis was after his bone scan, but there are cases when I think having one at least once a year, so you can see where you're going. You know, are you trending toward less bone? You know, staying the same? You know, what is it for you? And then I think you could decide at that point, after having maybe 2, 3 in a row, I think it would take 3 in a row to figure out whether to have it more often or have it less often. But I wouldn't say any more than 2 years. 2 years, I think is a lot at this point in, you know, I know in my life, or in, you know, in lives over 50, I'd say 50 or 60 years old.
Yeah.
But
And
the X-ray is negligible within the actual bone scanning.
Sorry, what did you say is negligible? The
It's
radiation?
not as intense as other X-rays are concerned. No, so
really?
that I wouldn't be so concerned about that. But I think 6 months is too.
yeah, maybe, you know, he might have said 6, 9, 12, but he did not say 6 months, every 6 months. I mean, he was talking pretty much like you are, Dr. Tilly, is that depending on what's happening in my life, I'll say, do I want to go more frequently or not? So yeah, I think that he was leaving it up to me, and that felt pretty good. The radiation, again, from the technician, he was saying about the same thing. It's not that high of a dose of radiation that you're receiving. So, and you know, you go to the dentist and you get x-rays So you get a lot of X-rays depending on what you're going to the doctor for. But anyway,
It's worth it.
yeah, it is. I believe it is.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay,
you're
so
welcome.
I
Good
need
question.
to jump. I need to jump in because I promised we would end at 8. So I did it again. I talked a little too long. I really want to get to a point in doing these presentations that we're sharing information and then we're also having a dialogue. So I know that there probably were maybe some other questions or not, but I want to just share this one slide with you as it relates to the community wellness program that we're doing. It's a family affair. The reason for this is one of the reasons was many reasons, but of course, you know, our children, our grandchildren, our extended family members. Bone health needs to start when folks are young instead of waiting for them to get older to start having conversations about bone health because it does have our lifestyle has an impact on our ability to age, gracefully with optimum health. So we're asking within the Bones and Balance community. I have a number of support folks that have been helping with Bones and Balance, and I really appreciate each and every one of you that's on this call this evening. But we really want to be able to share this with as many families and friends and organizations as possible. So you can go to our website and this same display that you see here in terms of this presentation, join us in making a difference, sign up. We can customize a program for you, for your family, for your organization. We want to be able to share this information at the family level, not just in terms of individuals, but at the family level, because as you can hear, it's better to do it when you're younger than when you're older. And the Bone series is something that I think that it's fun, in terms of being able to share the information with people and have fun in the process. One of the things that Philomena and Robert did not share with you all is the fact that some of our activities that we actually met at the playground. So we had a good time, playing while the kids were playing, we were playing as well. And so I really want to be able to stress that we want you to join us on this movement. And then lastly, we do need to get your feedback in terms of the survey. So Crystal has put the link in the chat. It shouldn't take but a few seconds, I believe, to give us your feedback. Is everyone able to see that, Crystal, in terms of the survey?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Ms. Cole had her hand raised. So if a question is of me, this is Dr. Tilley, I can stay on if you have a question of me afterwards. Mm-hmm.
No, it's all right. I can follow up with Miss Emma.
Okay.
But I appreciate you though. Thank you.
Sure.
Was that a message for me, Joy?
I can follow up with you another day.
Okay.
I'm aware of the time.
I think I need a timekeeper. I've done Toastmasters. Obviously, I need to go back and brush up on Toastmasters. I'm a work in progress, y'all. So please bear with me as I'm sharing this information. I get so excited sometimes I kind of get a little long-winded, but in this case, I just really want to be able to get feedback from you. You know that it's important for the grant that we have been gifted in terms of sharing this valuable message in the community. And again, I thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. And then I learned something too. Like I was I was going through the presentation, but I couldn't see myself. And so I think that when I'm able to see myself and going through the presentation at the same time, I feel like I'm more in line with what's really going on. Learning as I go. And while you're doing that, one thing I did want to say is that Crystal, you have a couple of other things you put in the chat for them, right?
Yes, I will post our latest blog post where we have a new infographic.
Are they able to see it? Is it part of this presentation? No, probably no, it's not. Okay. Did everyone complete the survey?
Yes.
Okay, so the very last page in terms of wrapping up is that bone health is a lifelong family affair. As mentioned earlier, you know, it's living, we're living every day that we live, we are creating an opportunity to maintain our strength and stamina. You know, as we're aging, oftentimes people think that because we are aging, that we will lose our ability to be strong. But I've seen quite a difference. I'm a bone builder lead, and one of the participants is 95, will be 96 on Saturday, and he started in our class, and now he is no longer walking with a cane. So, you know, it's living proof that if you follow the program and put in the work, that you can continue to develop strong bones and build um, more strength and stamina. So from a family perspective, strong bones are built through shared habits and mutual support. Prioritizing bone health is very, very important. That's the greatest gift that you can give your family members. And lastly, we want to make sure that, or actually, I can't make sure, but you know, just really being grateful that each one of you are here. That bone health is a family tradition, and that you share this message with your family. And remember, we are looking to partner with as many families as possible. So just let us know if you want us to create a customized program for you. We have some real exciting things that we're working on for the spring. We'll continue to keep you updated. And with that, unless there is no other questions or comments, we thank you for coming.